If you think about an ocean, there's always a wave, like for the really, really high wave, but the wave always comes down. The wave always levels out. There is always something on the other side of it, and we may be in the middle and the top of a wave, but I promise the wave will level out. Even if only for an instant, the wave will level out. Hey, love, come in. Put your back down. Hey, love. Welcome back to Put Your Bag Down, the podcast. And today we are talking about how, honestly, choosing joy is stressing me out. If that resonates with you, if that makes sense to you, then this is absolutely the episode for you. It's a solo episode. It's just you and I, just you and me, just the two of us, because we're going to talk about the things. We're going to get honest. We're going to be real. We're going to get into why choosing joy can be so hard, what we do with ourselves when we don't feel like we have capacity to choose joy, and what you can do instead. So if any of that seems interesting, stay tuned. We're going to get into it. Okay, so I recently had a birthday, and in true recovering perfectionist manner, was reflecting on all the things that I thought I had overcome, but was clearly still struggling with. And when I say that, I mean all the ways I thought I had grown, but realized I still needed to work on things, all the people I thought I had forgiven, but realized the hurt was definitely still there, and all the ways I thought I had forgiven myself, but was still low-key, high-key, very much still judging myself. And so I was really frustrated with the fact that at my big age, I was still struggling with some of the things I was struggling with. I thought I had put these things to bed. I thought I had elevated. I thought I had grown. I was so proud of myself. And why at this point in my life, with my experience and my wisdom and my degrees and my know-how, how was I still struggling through some of the same old stuff? Kind of got me to spiraling. And then I saw this message about choosing joy. Just choose joy. Y'all, I lost it. I lost it. Now, don't get me wrong. I've spoken about having joy. I've spoken about having joy as a mindset and not just a feeling. But on this day, on this particular day, with this day when I didn't want to see it, hear it, be reminded of it, I didn't want to feel it, I didn't want to be reminded that I couldn't feel it, I wanted to choose joy, but I had nothing in me in that moment to fight for that. I had nothing in me to fight for the joy, which actually only left me feeling more frustrated and overwhelmed and like I was doing something wrong, especially as a person who's telling people how to choose joy. And it got me to thinking, all right, so what happens when you can't choose joy? What happens when you are choosing joy is so beyond what you have capacity for or can fathom in that moment? What do? Well, here's what I decided. Maybe I can't choose joy right now, but I can opt out of catastrophizing. I can opt out of deciding it's all bad. I can opt out of spiraling. I can opt out of overthinking. And right now, that just may have to be good enough. And I was okay with that. So you all know that I often say words mean things. Words actually mean things. I've said it through every different episode because they do. And I want to give some context to when I say catastrophizing or overthinking or spiraling or all or nothing thinking and things like that, that you understand where I'm coming from. And so when I say catastrophizing, I mean jumping to the worst possible conclusion, just jumping straight to worst case scenario. The all or nothing thinking is thinking only in extremes, only either it's perfect or it's a complete failure. Either this went exactly the way that it was supposed to go, and if it didn't, everything about it failed. And the other piece is emotional reasoning. And so because I feel a way about something, it must be true. Because my feelings are so strong in this way, it must be true. Feelings are real, but feelings are not facts. And so when we're doing the emotional reasoning, when we're doing the all or nothing thinking, when we're doing the catastrophizing, when we're doing the overthinking and the ruminating and the spiraling, it makes it really, really hard to access that joy. I do think it's always somewhere within us, but it is really hard to access it. And it's really, really hard to activate it when you are feeling overwhelmed and just underwater. And that's how I was feeling that day. And so it got me to thinking about, well, what are the things that squash your joy? What are the things that make it so hard to activate the joy? And I came up with some joy killers. And the first one, self-criticism, self-critique. We'll have an episode where we talk about the inner critic a little bit later, but that self-criticism and that self-critique, every time, like, it is a great way that just a gut punch where it paralyzes you in a way. And so first I'm going to talk about what you can do up here, and then more importantly, what you can do in your body. Because remember, 80% of what happens to us is in our body, 20% of what happens to us is in our mind. But we spend 80% of the time in our mind and 20% of the time in our body. So with one of the joy killers being self-criticism, self-critique, or comparison, I want you to consider this question. What's one self-critiquing phrase that's on repeat in your mind? What's something that's living rent-free, in your mind? What is one critique? Just think of one in this moment, just one. You're like, girl, you mean today? You mean the last 10 minutes? You think, what are we talking about here? Just one. Just give me one. Now, I want you to ask yourself these few questions. Why is it saying that? Why is it saying it, and where did it come from? Why is that critique popping up, and where did it come from? Second thing I want you to ask, whose voice is it in? Does it sound like it's in your voice? Does it sound like it's your mom? Does it sound like it's a old friend? Does it sound like it's an old partner? Whose voice is it in? And then 3, what can we replace it with? And sometimes the self-critique is, oh my gosh, how could you have done that? What's wrong with you? Why are you being so stupid? You can replace it with, hey, okay, learn something new. Plot twist. That's the thing I like to say often when I'm messing stuff up and I have to switch the self-critique moment. It's, oh, that was a plot twist. Okay, we're just going to change it up. We're going to do something different here. And so what can you say to yourself to replace it, to replace that thought that's coming up? There will be times when the self-critique, the negative thought, and the comparison starts to come up and you can't say anything to replace it, but you can say, I know this is what I feel, but this may not be true. I know this is what I feel, but this may not be true. A lot of the comparison shows up when we're scrolling on IG, scrolling on all of the socials and comparing our lives to other people's lives, comparing the beginning of our journey with someone else's chapter 7 of their book. A lot of times comparison comes up when we are comparing our first chapters to someone else's 7th chapter in their book. And all we see is how far they've gotten and how far we have to go. But we don't know the story in between. And I know we get that up here, but in our body, it can be a thing. It can be hard. And so sometimes what you replace it with is, I don't know their full story. I know mine. I don't know what's true, but I know this negative critique is incorrect. I don't know what's fully true, but I know this negative critique is incorrect. And so these are some things you can say and do in your mind. These are some things I had to say and do in my mind. And every now and then, talking it out doesn't work. And so you have to do almost like a shock to your system. And so this is where the body work comes in. When I start to ruminate, when I start to spiral, when I start to overthink, I physically have to make my body go do something else. So I physically get up. If I'm in my office, I have to get up out of my chair and move around, walk out of my office space, go outside if I can go outside, move my arms, move my body, physically shake it off of me, do something to disrupt that pattern of thought that is currently happening. I put on a song that I need to hear. I love you. That's my song. That's my go-to. But something to just break up the monotony, break up the snowball that is starting to roll down the hill. This becomes the thing that stops the snowball in your body. If you can pause and go grab something to eat, drink some water, take some deep breaths, anything that shifts where you currently are kind of gives your body a quick reset. Now, it won't take the thought away. So doing this may not take the thought away. It may not all of a sudden make things better, but it does give you a quick reprieve, a quick reset. And sometimes that's the thing we need to be like, wait a minute. This is the pause I needed. Like, what's happening here? What's going on? So that would be one of the first recommendations in terms of the joy killer, self-critique and self-comparison, that I had to realize I had to start doing. The second one is suppressing your emotions. I get it. You can't express your emotions all the time in every space because we have to act like adults. And there has to be a space where you can vent, where you can get what's inside of you out, where you can get those heavy emotions out. And so how do you vent? How do you get those emotions out of you? When was the last time you vented? There's actually a really amazing book by a friend of mine named Dr. Judith Joseph. There'll be a link for it in the bottom. It's called High Functioning. And this book really gets into all the ways that you can focus on your happiness. She actually has something called the 5 V's of happiness. And one of them is called venting. Because if you do not vent, that negativity, that negative energy stays in your body. And I've noticed when I can't access joy, when I can't activate my joy, it is because my body is overwhelmed with emotions that need to get poured out, that need to get dumped out. There's no way to activate it because it's like squished in the corners, and all this negativity is just, or all these overwhelming feelings are kind of just sitting here. And so venting, you can vent to other people, trusted people that you have vetted, that you care about. She breaks all that down in the book. You can vet to yourself. You can scream into a pillow. You can pray, you can dance, you can move your body. Again, back to moving your body, but it's getting that emotion out of you. Suppressing that emotion really does impact our ability to have joy, because the joy has nowhere to go. It can't, be in your body if these heavy emotions are just sitting here. I get the phrase, if I start crying, I'll never stop. But love, if you don't start feeling, you'll never start healing. And that's real. And so one of the things I had to check into when I was in that moment was like, what's the negative stuff? What am I holding on to right now that I need to actually just release? Because I just have to release it. It has to go somewhere. So number 2, suppressing emotions, joy killer. Number 3, disappointment. What is your relationship to disappointment? Mine, not so great. And so I had to be honest around, when I am disappointed about something, have I truly allowed myself to grieve it? Grieving is not just for losing a loved one. Grieving can happen when any expectation that you had is not met. We get to grieve not getting that opportunity, no longer being in that relationship, the store that I needed to go into closing sooner than I thought it was going to close. Like it doesn't have to be this major, massive, traumatic event. Anytime an expectation is not met, you get to grieve that. Sometimes a grief will last, 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Sometimes it can last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But when you are grieving, it allows you to sit with that disappointment, move through that disappointment, acknowledge that disappointment. And that is what we need to do at times. When you're able to grieve an expectation that isn't met and that disappointment comes up, acknowledging it, moving through it, sitting with it, understanding it's okay to grieve that thing, helps to give space so you can have more joy. So you can activate that joy, so you can access your joy. One of the ways that joy gets suppressed, again, is just not being able to acknowledge the disappointment, not allowing yourself those moments to grieve the big and the small expectations that weren't met. And again, when I started to think about why I wasn't able to activate the joy, I realized some of the things that I had been longing for, some of the things that I had wanted, some of the things that was sad about that wasn't happening in my life. I hadn't grieved it yet. I was holding on to it. I was frustrated about it. I was disappointed in it, but I wasn't allowing myself to grieve it. I wasn't allowing myself to be honest with the fact that I needed to grieve that may not happen, or that thing had ended, or this may not be the way or play out the way that I wanted to play out. And on the other side of that grief, on the other side of that disappointment, there is a peace there. And then you can move forward, and then you can move on. And so I had to get honest about the places and the ways and the areas that I had not grieved. So if you're not able to access your joy and you're not able to activate that joy, is there anything that you need to grieve? Is there any disappointment that needs to be witnessed or recognized or spoken out loud or talked about so it can get out of your system and you can get back to activating and accessing that joy? Now, if we have all these joy killers, all these things that impact our ability to access our joy, how do you build it? How do you get there? So glad that you asked. So one of the joy builders I would name is community. We're always going to name this. It's community. I know right now in this season, especially that we are in, it can be hard to find joy. It can be hard to access joy. It can be hard to know where to find it. It can be hard to believe in it. And that's real. And the places that we find it when the world seems insane, when the world seems chaotic, when the world seems upside down, is in the communities that we have. It's in the laughter of those that we love. It's reminding us there are points of pure goodness all around us. And I get it. If you're saying, well, I don't have any community because I'm the go-to, I'm the fixer, I'm the strong one, I'm the superwoman, I'm the one that everyone else leans on. Consider us your community. You can come here. You don't have to be anything other than what you are right here. You can exhale here. You can be seen here. We're not judging you. We're not saying you should have done something differently. We're not shaming you. We're not guilting you. We get it. And so building community, having community, leaning into community, the different communities that you have, helps to remind you that you can activate and access your own joy. And so I had to spend a little time with some people and spend some time with some friends. And I had to remember that I love to laugh. I love cooking. I love friends. I love being around people that are fun and eclectic and different. I also love silence and looking at trees and being in nature and doing nothing and laughing at myself. And good warm clothes, clothes that just feel nice and warm. And that's okay. The micro points of joy that you can access all around you. Again, if I can't fully choose joy, I can opt out of some of these other things. And so to keep from spiraling, to keep from overthinking, I would focus on one or two things that made me smile in that moment. Just one or two things that made me smile in that very moment. So another thing that is a joy builder is release and acceptance. Release and acceptance. When I was thinking about why it was so hard for me to activate this joy, why I felt muted and muffled, I realized there were some things I needed to release as it relates to perfectionism and attaching to specific outcomes and accepting that I can only control what I can control. We can only control what we can control. And to be honest, there's not a lot we can control. We try to believe we can, but in actuality, we can only do the part that we can do. And so again, it goes back to the grieving and the giving up. If you think about an ocean, there's always a wave, like for the really, really high wave, but the wave always comes down. The wave always levels out. There is always something on the other side of it. And we may be in the middle and the top of a wave, but I promise the wave will level out. Even if only for an instant, the wave will level out. And one thing I want to name in this, as we are in a season of like true resistance and calling out and calling in and speaking up, resistance without joy is self-abandonment. And so activating that joy, accessing our joy is truly a part of our liberation work. If we are always leaning in and doing the hard thing and always in the battle and never taking a moment to celebrate and enjoy what's around us, it will burn us out so much faster. And I promise you, we need to be here for a long, long time. We need you here for a very long time. With everything that I'm saying, the one thing that is consistent is activating the joy, accessing the joy, choosing the joy. I am saying that because the joy never actually leaves us. It actually can live in the same space as our pain and our rage and our frustration and our anger and our hurt and our disappointment and our grief. Joy doesn't go away. But if they're sitting here in a container together, if all these keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it makes it a little bit, the joy gets a little tight, it gets a little squeezed in. It gets a little pushed to the side, pushed to the corner, but it is never gone. It's never gone. And so some of the things that we're naming, it's about being able to activate and access our joy while still also understanding these other things are real. These pieces are true. These other feelings are present. They can coexist at the same time. And so the moments where I can't choose joy, don't judge myself. Don't shame. Don't think there's something wrong when you can't actually activate or access the joy in the moment because these feelings are so big and so loud and so massive. It'll come back. Remember the wave, it'll come back. And so one of the things I got to thinking about when I realized, okay, well, joy is always here, but these other pieces are here right now and they're very, very loud and they're very, very big. What does slow burning joy look like? What does my joy being, more of a slow burn look like? So what does slow burning joy mean? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, let me put it like this. I am not a morning person. I have tried. I will wake up in the morning. I will hop up when I need to. The alarm will go off. I will hit the buzzer. We'll be good to go. But I don't enjoy being a morning person. I like the silence of the morning. I like the quiet of the morning. I like seeing the sunrises, but I am not a pop up, let's get the day started type of morning person. That's okay. And with that, I've come to realize and accept, and I invite you to do the same, that I may not be a person that can or will consistently wake up with joy or positivity or happiness. I may wake up with some overwhelm or some anxiety or some stress. And that's okay, because it's about what we do with it. I have realized that my joy may take a little time to heat up. It may take some time to warm up. It may take a little time to get going. It may require a little bit of stretching. So instead of judging myself or judging that or shaming myself, I work with it. I get up and I do what helps me shake off the stressors. It helps loosen them up a little bit. I take moments to myself first thing in the morning, even though I am not a morning person. And sometimes that means getting up before my world gets going. And I don't love that, but it's worth it for how I feel after. Sometimes I go outside. I take deep breaths. I sometimes say all the unhealthy things to get them out of my system and then realize those actually make absolutely no sense. Or I write them on down and I burn it. And I'm like, none of that is actually true. Or some of that is true. And the things that are true, that are critiques or hard stuff to say about myself, I can do something about it. Sometimes I problem solve. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I make a plan. Sometimes I just sit with my feelings. I sit in the discomfort of my feelings and witness them and don't try to solve it or fix it or change it. It doesn't always take away the heaviness, but it does break up the tension. And that's a start. And I can work with that. And so the slow burning joy is where I have settled in. I may not always be able to actively choose joy or activate my joy, but I can opt out of catastrophizing. I can opt out of overthinking. I can opt out of spiraling. I can opt out of feeding the joy killers. I can opt out of the things that make it harder to remember that joy is always in me and it is always with me. I can also acknowledge that I may be a slow burning joy kind of gal. And I may have to do things to get it going, get it warmed up, and that's okay. And while I'm trying to warm up the joy or activate the joy, I can lean into my community. I can acknowledge the areas where I need to release old expectations. I can accept what's in front of me. I can be focused on the gratitude of the moment. I can move my body to disrupt the ruminating thoughts because I know the joy is always there. Sometimes it just may take a little more time to access it. And I'm cool with that. And I hope you are too. Thank you for joining us this episode. If anything resonated with you, please share with a strong friend that needs a soft retreat. One of the things that I want to offer you also, it's not just words and thoughts or thoughts and prayers or, hey, good luck with that. If you look into the description, there is a link for ways that you can access joy, ways that you can move your body, different resources and support that can help in those moments where activating and accessing joy feels like too much, feels overwhelming. There may be some songs in there as well. So add to the playlist if that feels right to you. We look forward to hearing from you. You're not alone. You're not in this alone. You have community. You can put your bags down.